Extraordinary God, Ordinary People podcast. I'm Ashlyn Everard, your podcast host, and today I have Stone and Sheridan all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Yeah. Excited to be on.
Very stoked.
I'm so glad you guys decided. I'm so glad Elise reached out to you guys to come on. Shout out to the Neils if you guys haven't watched their episode. It's really, really good. But I always start one of these out with an icebreaker. So, what is your guys' favorite coffee shop in either Phoenix or the greater Phoenix area?
Ooh, that was a good question. You want to go first?
Yeah. I think I'll go with this one. I don't go there that often, but one of my favorites is called Infusion off of it's in Tempe, so just a little further north than where we're at. But they have like my all-time favorite drink ever in the valley. It's called a ginger twist. So it's a mixture of like a ginger lemon cold brew sparkling water combo. Yeah.
Very fancy, very different. Very out of the box. This is like such a hard question because I feel like I have so many favorites for like different things. So I'm like, what's the overall vibe? I think like on any given day, I think Sagebrush is great. Just because like they have unique flavors, the vibe inside is great to study or to like sit and read. And so I love the atmosphere. And the people are always so nice. They remember my name, which shows how much I go.
They care about. We'll just go.
That too. Yeah, they just really care about me. But no, I love that place.
Been to Sagebrush yet, but I know Elise talks about it a lot, so I need to go the next time.
Yes.
Like the scooter is my favorite. It's like a caramel banana bourbon kind of flavors.
Oh my gosh.
It's good. It's very different and unique, which I love.
Okay. I didn't get into coffee until junior year of college, thanks to Elise. Without Elise, I would not have been a coffee person. She got Victoria and I both hooked on coffee.
That is so
No, there was a lot of places I didn't try when I was living there.
Yeah, I know. Totally makes sense.
But with this podcast, I felt like it was needed to share other people's stories because so many people have testimonies that either people have never heard or may relate to, and God works in so many different ways in everyone's lives. And so that was kind of why this podcast I felt like was needed to be out there to have people be able to share their testimony and just give glory to God. So I usually start with kind of, I guess, childhood. So whoever wants to go first, if you guys were raised in the church, how you guys came to church, kind of what did that look like for you guys when you guys were growing up?
Yeah, I guess I can go first.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a Christian household my whole life. I would say I was pretty consistent in church like my whole life. Like during high school, I pretty much volunteered everywhere. So like kids, even like video and editing for like YouTube. And yeah, I served everywhere. I loved like all the camps. I was a part of the worship team. Like I did everything. Then once I graduated high school and started getting to college, it was kind of when you get to that point where you have to decide for yourself, like, am I going to kind of follow my parents' faith or am I going to make it my own? And so I would say probably like the beginning of like my college journey, like I always believed in God. I always believed in Jesus, always had that. But there definitely were times where like I started to like just slip back into like the world and like had a very like world mindset. Went through like a lot of situations that were not great. I'm trying to think of like what I could say with that. Like your typical like early 20s, like, you know, drinking and going out, using dating apps, all those things for the wrong reasons. And just like trying to like seek the things that I felt like I was lacking. And also just like trying to seek things from like situations that were not good. So I'm like, oh, let me turn it around and try to like seek it for myself. Then I got to a point where it was just very dark and depressive and lots of anxiety. And I got to the point where I had like this situation happen and I was like, okay, like I can't live like this anymore. Like this is not the lifestyle that I want to live. Like I need Jesus. And I'm like, this is the only thing that I know that I can like reach out to. And so I'm like, Jesus, like I need your help. Like I can't live like this anymore. And as soon as I like prayed that, like I always had tried to get back into faith. And it would always be this cycle of like, I would get really, really strong again and then fall back into the same things, like for a pattern for like, I would say about like 3 years of my life, just like struggling and then doing good with Jesus, struggling and going back and forth between that. And yeah, when I had that situation, I was like, okay, God, I need you, prayed. And soon after, I was working at Dutch Bros, and I actually was working with Lizette on shift. It was really great. And I was like telling her, I was like, oh my gosh, like I really just like miss having community. And she was like, hey, like, have you ever checked out Antioch? And I was like, fun fact, I used to go there. And so I used to go there before COVID. Then COVID happened, that's when I left for about a year. Like, it wasn't anything to do with the church at all. It was just like my own thing, and had a falling out with the person I was going there with. So kind of just all natural things. And so, yeah, I came back to Antioch. I got plugged into a life group. And then ever since that point, I've been there ever since. And it's totally life changing. That's literally how I met Stone, which is super sweet. And then also along with that story too is there was a girl that I had met at Dutch Bros. She was a customer that came through. A little while before that point, I got this surrender tattoo that I have on my wrist. It's always been something that, like, the word surrender, like, just reminds me of, like, okay, I have to bring my life back to Jesus and surrender to him. Like, my life is not my own. And so she saw it at the point of when I was struggling. And she was like, oh, like, what does that mean to you? And so I'm like, oh, like, well, I'm a Christian, like, super, super shy. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, me too. Like, that's amazing. Like, I haven't, like, met a Christian in, like, a long time. Like, it was just really, like, sweet. And so she got my number, we got lunch, and we hung out, and she, like, read my mail. Like, I didn't explain anything to her, told me literally everything in my life. And I was like, how do you know? Broke down in tears. And she was the one that, like, really helped me, like, push, like, back into church again. And I'm, like, so thankful for her, like, support in my life. And she still is in my life, and was even, like, my matron of honor my wedding. And so it's just, like, sweet to see, like, how God took, like, places in my life that were so dark and, like, brought people in to love me so well. And even going back into Antioch too, like, people just accepted me and, like, loved me so well. And, like, some of my best friends, like, come from there. And yeah, I literally, like, it's crazy to see, like, where I was in my early 20s and, like, where I'm at today. Like, I feel like it's a complete 180. I'm like, I can't believe God brought me here, and, like, all the things that he's given me to, like, steward, like, people to love well. And it's just been, I've been so thankful.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'd say for me, I think from the outside looking in, I definitely would have grown up in a Christian home. Um, and on the surface, that's what it seemed like. And so my like home church was a matter of like 3 minutes from my house. But most of my faith, I would actually credit to my grandmother. She was the one who was kind of the rock in our family, still is, and was very much a catalyst and a key like foundation point in asking those like questions of who is Jesus, what does the cross actually mean, what does this mean for me. And so very young, receive Jesus and like have a marking moment at that point. But childhood, for me, I felt like it was a lot of uh, I just kind of went through the motions a lot, and so especially like in elementary school, and things like that. And so I was just like the goody two shoes in so many ways, like good grades, perfect attendance throughout school, and all these things, but never really didn't fully, I guess, fully understand the gospel and the impact it should have on your life and how the Holy Spirit works in that way. And so I'll just never forget a story from elementary school where I went to a public school and my teacher pulled me aside, and then being from South Alabama, there's this like cultural Christianity piece. So it's sometimes like these conversations are okay. Um, and so, yeah, like she pulled me aside and she was like, hey, we had a new guy in our class that year. They had moved from Montana, so very different. Montana to South Alabama. Yeah, so you can imagine the culture shock, the literal culture shock, even moving like that within the U.S. And I just became really close friends with him, and so I'll just never forget. I think just by the way that I like lived my life, even though from my brain it was like goody two shoes, but we had a few conversations in class about Jesus and what I would do on the weekends, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to church or things like that. But my teacher pulled me aside and was like, hey, I'm just relaying a message from this guy's mom, and it was like they had been praying for him, just kind of for him to have a salvation moment, and so that kind of happened, and heard the backing of the story of a lot of it was just due to the way that I lived my life, and so being so young, I just don't think that I was like, oh, I'm making an impact, and boom, like that happens. And then, yeah, I think moving from that, middle school is middle school, is probably everybody has those ups and downs, peaks and lows, and all those things. But I'll just never forget, um, into my freshman year of high school, I had a very kind of defining moment where I very vividly remember encountering the Holy Spirit for the first time. Um, and I was in a room of like 2,000 people at a conference, and part of growing up was camp. I was a camper, served on high school staff, eventually probably might share some stories of college staff, and just ways that I said yes to Jesus and didn't expect him to show up in that way. But freshman year of high school, I'll definitely never forget, just in a room of like 2,000 people, and you can like hear a pin drop. It is so quiet. And this lady, so putting that small town mindset in, right? We normally didn't get things that were normal or outside of the box, but this moment was very outside of the box. This lady started praying in Spanish, and I had no idea what she was saying, but I could instantly had an encounter with the Holy Spirit. I was like, I have like chills, and I have no idea what's going on in the room. And so it was like that moment. I was like, I can't. Kind of had that same moment. I cannot live my life the same way. Like, these things that I'm dealing with, I have to be gone. I have to walk in freedom. And so I spent most of my high school kind of removing that, kind of breaking that box open, where it's like I can't live so close-minded. I really need to have this like open mindset, and I think that that's kind of a, also a picture of my faith journey, where coming from a very um, a background in Christianity in that way, where maybe things aren't taught, or for better or for worse, they're just not talked about. Then coming into a space where there's just like more of the kingdom that like the Lord wanted to show me. And so I think that that was like a big picture as like I launched into college, and kind of post that, as the Lord was just like opening my box of like things that he wanted to do and ways that he wanted to show up. Um, and yeah, so there's like so many more that we'll probably get into. Yeah, so it's like the start of where I would say where I'm at.
No, it's crazy. I feel like a lot of people who grew up in a Christian household per se understand what it means, but really don't until there's something, I feel like, either in high school or even college. Or I was just talking to my mom, and she said it wasn't until she had after she had us that it finally clicked. And it was just crazy how she goes, You just kind of did it because that's what your parents told
Yeah.
you to do in a way."
So you're
But I
taught.
thought growing up, I was like, well, that's just normal. Like, you
Mhm.
just do it. Because I grew up in a small town in Florida.
Yeah.
You're Lutheran and you just do it. And you're like, okay, I believe in Jesus. Like, what do you mean? But it really wasn't until I came to Phoenix and Antioch that it finally kind of clicked for me. So would you guys say that Antioch for you, Sheridan, was where it clicked? Stone, was it kind of just not clicking, I know, in high school, but it kind of like help you grow in
Yeah.
your faith coming
Yeah,
in?
I think it that one was a launching pad for me. So in high school, served on camp counselor staff, and then even in college, I think kind of the same thing when I stepped into my freshman year. Naturally, you may have had the same experience where it's like, oh yeah, I'm growing up in the church, and people are like, oh, spend time with Jesus and like have your daily devotional time, and it's like, well, like how? Yeah, like how do I do this? And, I just found myself around people that were like willing to teach me that, and willing to say like bring me into their personal time, where it was like, hey, you can come and sit with me for the 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour long, however you want to sit, and like watch me do this, and begin that process of just like gaining so many tools. And yeah, I would say that moment in my freshman year of high school was just a launching pad. It led to so many things like down the line. When you have an encounter with the Holy Spirit like that, it's you kind of are chasing after moments like that. And you're chasing after encounters with him, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going after him, and that's it. And so I think it was that like had motivated me to like saying yes to going overseas so many times. With the first being like right after I graduated high school. And so it's not like often that people make those decisions. Like there has to be a motivation. And I would say, yeah, like that moment. And then kind of, I think subsequent moments either solidified and helped cement that idea that like, oh, this is mine, and the Lord wants to open this box, of just showing me more of himself.
Was that the same for you, Sheridan, too, with people bringing you in to kind of teach at Antioch as well? Because I feel like they're so open and welcoming into how to encounter the Holy Spirit there, and they don't want to hide it with anyone. Like, they don't hide it. They want everyone to feel that inclusion.
Yes, exactly. Like I remember, I think right before, or like, no, I was going to Antioch for a couple of months, and then like a few months after is when my parents were going through a divorce, which was super hard. And I remember one of the series that we went through was called Tending Your Heart, and wow, like was that just like life changing and like so needed in that moment because I was just struggling with a lot, and it was like the moments where like okay, I'm gonna allow myself to process this now, and like having people like be around me to like, hey, you're not crazy for thinking and like being in this, like we know this is hard and we're here with you if you just want to sit like with us. And so yeah, they like taught me a lot, and like even like in life group, like the way that it was structured, I learned so much. It was like finally like picking up like, oh my gosh, I love Jesus so much again, and like reminding myself like, wow, this is like what I've been craving and like what I've been searching for so like long, like needing that. And so yeah, like people taught me so much about like, hey, this is how to have quiet time with Jesus again, like make it personal. So I feel like, growing up, it's like people say like, oh yeah, I have quiet time, or like I know Jesus, but it's like when you really sit down and like spend time in the secret place with him, so drastically different of like him just like speaking to you, and like God bringing back things from my childhood of like, prophetic things, or like, hey, like you can operate in this, and like learning how to do that more in like a safe space to be able to do that for other people. Like it just provided like so much like teaching, and like helped me change my heart posture with a lot of things, like learning new things too, like even things that you grow up learning, but then actually like learning it in a different perspective, like reading it in the Bible, you're like, wow, this is actually different than what I was taught. And like yeah, I mean, like I grew up in a church that was very like, charismatic and stuff like that. So it's not like it was so drastically different, but there were just like some things where I was like, wow, like I get to see Jesus through people. Like people love him so well. Like that's what I'm looking for. And so people modeled it so well for me.
Did you guys both do D school?
We
Yes,
did.
different year.
What was that for you guys?
I will describe D school for me as open heart surgery every day. Like
That's
there is
honestly a great way to put
like
it.
there is this like place of I'm putting myself on the operating table, opening myself up, and letting Jesus do what he wants to do. And so when we talk about ADS, it's that's like what it is. I feel like there's a lot of theology that you gain. There's a lot of practicality that you gain. There's your
Yes.
trip at the end where he puts both of them together, and the Lord shows up and he's blowing your mind of things.
Yeah.
But I think there's also just a ton of refinement that happens, and so I think I've always described the experience as it is heart surgery. Like the Lord really is refining you. He's cutting things out of your life, but at the same time, He's like making you so much pure and so much more holy. You're really going to these places that you probably would never go in a different season, and so really kind of setting aside those 9 months to do that extensive work. Yeah, he just honors that sacrifice in a really beautiful way.
Yeah. I love D school. But I know everyone has like such different experiences. But I had just gone on my first mission trip the summer before, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. Like I want to learn more. And the track to like getting overseas, like you kind of started there in a way. And so I remember like I was praying before D school. I was like, okay, God, I have these two options. And like when I had all my family stuff, I was in nursing school, didn't pass. And so I was praying, and I was like, okay, God, I got these two options. I have nursing school or I have discipleship school. Like, which one do you want me to do? And very clearly he was like, go to discipleship school. And I was like, okay, like I'm putting like my kind of career on the line. Like this is kind of scary. And I'm like, but okay, like if this is what you call me to do, like I am 100% in, and trusted it. And it was like the best decision that I ever made. And so, yeah, I went into D school. I did day school. So I went Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, and it was just such a beautiful time. Like it was in D school where I actually found my love for the Bible. And we would have classes like teaching the history. And like I have never liked history in any circumstance, whether it's Bible, world history, whatever it is. I don't like history. But it was like the first time where like, it was explained in such a tangible way where I was like, okay, like I can grasp this. And it's not something that's so profound or something that I can't think about. And like the way that it was taught, I was like, okay, like I'm putting the pieces together. Like this actually makes sense to me. And so every week, when you have your Bible reading, it seems kind of daunting because you have so many chapters a week to read. But it was that like, okay, I want to start building this discipline. Like I want to start spending time, reading with God every day. And like, sometimes you'd have those weeks where it's like, okay, I'm reading 10 chapters the hour before school starts because I forgot. Or, you try to pace yourself as best as you can.
There's like actual coursework and you're like,
oh no, and so it's like, but at the same time, God gives like so much grace, and like He gave me so much grace when I did it. But yeah, it was just a beautiful time where like it really helps. Like you already kind of have those foundation points, but then it builds on those foundations of like really solidifying what you believe. And like someone said, like those theological points of like, okay, like why do I believe what I believe? Yeah. And like how do I like actually share this with someone in a way? And like even going on like our mission trip after, it's like, okay, like because I went to Columbia, very like interesting way of how people view things and how they're taught. It's like a very like art culture, so it's like how do you have a conversation with someone, and the ways that they did it was like such a beautiful way. And like they got people in by like showing art pieces, and people were curious, and that started the conversations. And so it was cool to see how like I've been to 2 different countries now, and I'm like, okay, like when I was here it was so different. When I'm here, the people here are so different. Like how can I still love them well and still try to have a conversation with them, even though it's so different. Yeah. And so, yeah, D school was like such a transformative time of my life. And I'm so thankful that I did it.
Is that, with the overseas, is that kind of something you guys want to do moving forward? Or is that something that's kind of just on the back burner? Or where do you feel like God's calling you guys into that with so much passion and love for it?
Yeah, this is a loaded question, but it's loaded in like
in the best ways possible.
Yeah, every single way possible. It is something that we are like actively pursuing. There's a practical way, right, that our tribe sends people, and it's right to go through D school, and then you go through a church planning school and some of these other courses and things like that, just to make sure that you are well and healthy and good, right? Because you don't want to do something long term like that and not be healthy in every possible way you possibly can.
It's a sacrifice.
There's also this wisdom of going debt free, which is this place that we find ourselves in, and so we are like, I feel like the Lord has placed these dreams on our hearts of different people groups and different nations. And He's done this fun thing of kind of bringing them together in a fun way.
Yeah, very different one than we were expecting.
Yeah, something that he just did. But yeah, it's something that we're actively pursuing, and we're just kind of in the process of, I don't want to say waiting, but like operating with faith in this tension of like, okay, God, we want to go. We want to live our life overseas and to do that, but at the same time, like there are things that you have for us here that you've asked us to steward in places that you asked us to step in, and so we want to honor that place until you have released us to step into that. So I would say that that's where we're at in the process, and very much actively like, it's like, okay, this is the goal in front of me. I feel like
I see it.
Yeah. They're like people that know us and have been in this journey with us for a long time, and we really feel like we're truly in a middle place. Like we're further away from the beginning than we've ever have been, but we're also like, there are still a lot of things that need to happen before we get there. And so, I would say that that's kind of where we're at. We're just like, we're anxious to go, we're ready to go, we want to go.
Yes.
We're determined to go, but the Lord has a timing of when He wants us to go. And so it's trying to be content with that, and also believe for the possible and the miracles to happen at the same time. So,
No, I've really commend you guys and the Neils as well for their timeline and really trusting the Lord in that, because I do believe Antioch stewards well with going overseas, and I know that it's something that I really felt like when I was there, that was one of their most like prominent and main things of just sending people overseas and spreading the gospel that way. If you're someone who's in your hometown or somewhere that you're living right now and wants to share the gospel but doesn't really know how, what would you say to them on what are some like advice and some practical ways of doing that?
So we are not gifted evangelists at all. Like
it's just not our gift.
It's not our gifting.
You're better than me.
I will say where we have found the most fruit in the way that we live our lives is meeting people where they're at and loving them. there's a ton of stories behind that where we have just found ourselves in these really interesting and not very unusual places because we ended up in a conversation with somebody and randomly and got to talking with them and like had this like fun place of just meeting them where they're at. I would say another thing for us is we loved hosting, and we still do. And so the Lord has done this funny thing with where we currently live, where sometimes He will give us like apartment numbers. So I'm like spending daily time with Him, and all of a sudden this like 4-digit apartment number like pops into my brain in a very like divine sense. And so what I've done is I've just, written them a note and said, hey,
this is where we live.
This is where we live. We would love to like get to know more of our community that are around here.
Have them over for dinner.
Yeah, so we've hosted them over for dinner. So like our next door neighbors, we've had them over for dinner.
It was really sweet.
They brought us cinnamon rolls before.
Oh yeah, that was literally the way to Stone's heart.
It was the way to my heart. Like I love a good cinnamon roll. But yeah, we've like had these conversations where it's like now I see them, when we're walking, when they're out walking their dog, or I'm getting out of the car, and so yeah, we're able to say hey and kind of build this connection even more because we've either one intentionally just kind of invited them into our space and meeting them where they're at and having these conversations. I think in other ways, being non-gifted evangelists, we've kind of had to figure out where can we reach the lost
and use our gifts to reach the lost.
Use like what do we have? And so I think that's been the place of one, we've realized that we can find somebody, meet them where they're at, and then all of a sudden Jesus pops up because we're just having this conversation,
like very natural flow. Like it's not like we're Christians, what do you think?
A very very
for some people. So,
kudos to you if you have that gift where you can walk up to somebody and just like have this open conversation.
I am not.
That's not me. Yeah. No, it's not me at all. It's been this journey, right? Because I feel like sometimes you kind of are walking faith and you're like, oh, I just want to do this and I want to be bold enough to do this. And it's like, no, like the Lord has given, if the church is a body, like, right, we see it in 1 Corinthians where it's like, let the hand be a hand and the foot be a foot. Yeah. And so it's realizing that I think to a deeper level, especially when it comes to kind of some of those giftings and where people are better at that than I am. And, I need to rely on those people to actually do that and encourage them and push them into that place where they can walk out of that knowing that I'm not. But at the same time, right, we're all called to share our faith. And so, God, what have you given me that I can utilize in that way? And so, for us, I think we've learned to meet people where they're at. And also, we love to host. And so, we always talk about our table. We have a very, I would say, decent size, but like on the smaller side of an apartment. But we decided to keep our 8-foot table because that's how much we value the table. So the table is really important for us. So just like hosting and having that space so people can sit around it. And so it's where all these fun conversations can often happen, is over a meal in so many ways.
So special. Do you guys host life group?
Yeah, yes. we do. So that's
every other month we trade off with our other co-leaders.
Okay.
But what we do, it's so fun to
love having people in our house.
Yeah, to have people in your house and like have that
Jesus
space together. And to worship in your own home is there's something really special and unique about it.
It's really special. So your guys aren't technically newlyweds. Over a year.
Yeah, just over a year.
A lot of people that I've talked to on this, Elise and Patrick, are only like 3 months in. 3 months in. Who I'm talking to next week is only, doing math now, like 3 or 4 months in.
Yeah.
So what have you guys learned living together and walking in marriage for over a year now?
That is a loaded question too. I think one of the fun things that we always tell people right before they get married is that like you're gonna learn the weirdest quirks about each other. And one of the like funniest things is that like there were things that I never did before I got married. And Stone's like, why do you do this? And I'm like, I don't know. Like it's just like for like if we have appliances out and they're not being used, I'll unplug them. So I always unplug stuff if we're not using. And then if we
that's weird too.
Do that.
Yeah, I do that. It's not weird. It's not a weird quirk. I think it just depends like how you grew up in your house or whatever.
No, it's so
but
true.
then another weird thing that I do, because I don't think it's weird, is that, like if I'm not using a room or like no one's in it, I'll close the door. Like if it's open, I think it's kind of weird. I keep our second bedroom closed, our like bathroom closed, and like I cannot sleep if the bathroom door's open. Like I'm like, Joan, can you close the door?
Sleep with the bathroom door open either. It stresses me out, and we say because the monsters are in there.
I understand. So that's just like one of the funnier things like with marriage. But I will say like the refinement that you get, like it's so beautiful, but like God teaches you so much about his love through marriage, like in the best ways possible, and like how to really like go low, be humble, and be a servant, and like okay, like I don't want to do the dishes today, but I know this will like help you and like serve you, so like let me do it. And like just doing things that I know that he'll appreciate. But yeah, like I just like marriage teaches you so much about Jesus. Like I don't think like I've gotten to see different like sides of God's characteristics like through marriage. And I just think it's been like so beautiful. Or like even like personality points, like I've been encouraged by Stone to like do certain things, and I'm like, okay, like I feel like, you know, I'm encouraged to do this now or like walk this out. And so like the amount of support that you get in like safety and security, like there's so much I feel like I could say, but I would say like those are some of the main points. And one of the great things in marriage too that I wanted to talk about was that like as we were talking about different gifts that we have, I would say like I don't know if this is like every single marriage and like this is what God does, but I've seen that like, you know, his strengths are my weaknesses and vice versa. And so I think that like we're able to balance each other out very well. Like he's very type A, I am not. And like this is like I've been so thankful. Like in the places that like I am weak, like he strengthens me. And like in the places like vice versa where I'm strong, like he can be weak in some areas. And so it's like really sweet to have that balance and not feel like we both just are not good at this. Which I mean, obviously there are some things that you aren't, but I think that there's like this beautiful balance in like the way that God brings that like personalities and the way that you do things together and how you store things. Like that's also been a fun area of like trying to store things well, and like the things that you learn from like your parents. You're like, okay, these are the things that I do want to do and these are the things that I don't want to do. And so how do you mix that together when you have different perspectives, and like how do you honor God well with that too? And so it's like all these questions that you have, but in the end, like it's just been so beautiful.
Yeah, I would say, I think for me, a lot of kind of those things I would say kind of came in the preparation season before marriage, where we feel like there are a lot of unhealthy things in our families that we've come from. I know Sheridan mentioned divorced parents. I also have divorced parents, and we've kind of had a moment in kind of the engagement and dating season where we started to realize that divorce and remarriage kind of became normalized, especially in generations that we could just even remember. And so I told her that like, hey, like the moment I propose, like I'm in, and I'm in for the long haul. Like I'm not like I'm committed to that point. And I think to that point it's like we see Jesus kind of act that out right for his bride and the church, and is like he's in it regardless of what it is. And I think that that's kind of shed some light on really just the extent of how can you be so committed to something that like consistently messes up or like makes you angry or just like upsets you in so many ways. And so I would say like that too, also to that point of just like we felt like that, you know, that kind of some of these things we felt like it's our generation that ends that. And so part of that has just been like, okay, God, what are you speaking about us, and what is it that you want? So I think that there's this, I think another fun thing that probably a lot of newlyweds have to figure out, and I think we took some time to figure that out, is like, okay, like I'm coming in with my own identity, dreams, passions, things like that. Sheridan's coming in with her own identity, dreams, passions. But when you're following Jesus, especially when two believers are following Jesus together, there is this trust of, Lord, how are you going to tie this together in this beautiful knot in that way? And he does it, and you don't understand how this knot gets created and kind of what he's doing to tie the knot, pun intended. But he just does it. And so it's this beautiful thing that as you kind of learn, from everything from the quirks about each other to like this serious things of like, okay, you have this dream, I have this dream, God, how are you going to put this together? He just has this like full story, and so that he's writing, and so there really is this piece of learning that individual piece, right? We are still two separate people. We have our own relationship with Jesus, but at the same time, we're not one. In the eyes of the Lord and the eyes of the law, and so it's how do we now create and establish this new identity as one, with all of these other mixture layers of it, which I think can be complicated sometimes, but also really good.
But also beautiful.
So.
Yes. No, I will 100% agree on coming in as individuals. And not in a bad way. I love my husband so much.
Yeah.
But I am type A and he is type B. And I understand completely when it comes to cleaning and just other things and how I operate and he operates. But he always reminds me that it's not us against each other, it's us against the problem.
Yes.
And I think that's also a fantastic way. But God has called us into a growth and refinement season for this year. And so I understand just how much stuff and how loving God is to bring it up to the forefront so you don't have to keep carrying that into your marriage longer. And I was talking to Elise about that, and I was like, we serve such a loving God that actually wants to call us higher to have a better relationship with him and a better relationship with our spouse, because he could just let us keep going. He could just let us keep doing our thing and hope for the best, but he actually cares so much about us to be able to do that for us. And I think that's such a special thing that he has called us into with marriage.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get it.
Yeah, and I'll even say too, it's like, right, Sheridan is still a daughter of Jesus, a daughter of God, and I'm still a son of God, and so there's this place where it's like, okay, we are still his family, co-heirs with Christ. Like that is still the reality of who we are, and so, right, when these things do come up, and it's like we are trying to fully refine ourselves and step into this place of unity and holiness and marriage and all the things that it comes into. He really is like so faithful to say like, no, you're still both my children. Like I still want you to be my children and to be better. But I'm going to use this thing called marriage to actually propel you to that. And I'm going to use this thing, to really refine you and show you different aspects of my love in that way. And he's so kind to do that. And I think it happens in all seasons, right? From being single to dating to engagement to marriage. To even like so many of our friends have kids now, and I'm like, they're encountering God in probably a completely new way that I have yet to encounter, of learning what it means to like have a child, and then like the love that they have for that child just to give them up, like that kind of mentality. And so the Lord just like uses all these seasons of life to just like remind us of how faithful he is. And so I think that's another probably part of our stories too, is just like the faithfulness of God, like through them all, of like he's like so faithful and intentional with each season that we've walked through, from like when I think of just even our story, when we started dating, our dating process, and even to like engagement and all these things. And so just him being so faithful to walk us through that point. And so he's so faithful and so kind.
Oh yes.
So
Can I ask about the dating? Or
It's like funny because like we have such different perspectives.
We do. I'll tell the same perspective. I think because we have a basic story. But anyway, if people know us, they knew that our dating process was very interesting.
Shout out to our friends.
Shout out to literally find you a wingman and a wingwoman. And
shout out Patrick.
Shout out the Neils.
Yes.
So Patrick, we told him this. Patrick gets all the credit for our relationship.
Yes.
But at the time, I was living with Patrick in D school, and I didn't watch a lot of classic movies growing up. So all of 2022, I watched the entirety of the MCU start to finish. So being fully caught up at that point. So I mentioned that detail because it's important later on. So just keep that. But anyway, so kind of as we were watching them, right, we love to host. And so it's a bit of thing about me even before marriage and dating and everything. And so So we would just have people from our community over all the time. We're like, hey, we're watching this movie tonight. Feel free to come over. And it's just kind of a fun way to do that. Well, I honestly don't remember how. I know that we were in life group together at the time, so I may have just mentioned it in life group where I was like, oh yeah, like we're watching these movies. Like,
no, I remember. Back in the days when we had Snapchat, we don't have it anymore. This was how old we are. No, I'm kidding. But I remember, like, I think it was like in nursing school at the time, and I was like, oh, look, I'm studying for this, but like I'm really bored. He was like, oh, like our house is like watching a movie. Do you want to come over? And I'm like, sure. Like, I love the MCU. Like, I'll come over.
So anyway, yeah, so we were watching that. And so she came over. Sometimes we would have more people. Sometimes it was just me, Patrick, and her. And so there was a moment where Patrick was like, hey, son, what about Sheridan? And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know. He was like, what about Sheridan? And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah, Patrick.
Like, I need you, like, can you give me, what do you mean, what about Sheridan? She's like, she's over at our house, sure. She's watching movies with us, sure. And he was like, no, it's obvious that she likes you. And I was like, no, I don't think that. Well, fast forward, pretty quickly after that, there were some more conversations that happened. And I was like, oh, this is intentional. So, girls, it's okay to shoot your shot.
Yes.
But anyway, so there was this like, but I was in D school and just felt like D school was not a time for me to date.
Yeah, which I knew that.
And she was very aware of that point. But anyway, so we just had these conversations, and so that was in March of 2022. So D school went all the way through May into June. So the timeline here is going to be, people are going to think this is crazy. But anyway, we had a conversation before I left for my D school trip. Being gone for a month, I straight up told her, I was like, hey, don't expect to hear from me while I'm in the nations.
Which obviously makes sense. That's your main focus.
Yeah, and there were times where she like messaged me, she was praying for me, or prophetic things, and that was like totally okay, well received.
Yeah, but it wasn't like casual like texting every day.
No, like I wasn't saying like, yeah. So anyway, so I get back mid-June, and kind of, I was like, okay, I'm back. I'm processing. I just went through this crazy 9-month thing, whatever. But part of that was like, okay, what do I do now, God? And so we had a conversation beforehand where I kind of had acknowledged that, oh, I think I kind of like you, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of had a little bit of that conversation. But we had another conversation after I got back and kind of looking at the summer and what I had the rest of the summer. I had like plans every weekend, surprise birthday parties, things like that. So we were moving to a different house.
There's a lot.
So there was a lot of things. I honestly felt like I couldn't steward her. And I was like, hey, I don't feel like I can steward you. So I didn't want to like lead her on, and really just said, hey, you are released from me. Like if somebody else comes along, that's totally okay. No hurt feelings. And so just this really transparent place. I just told her, I said, but I said, once I get through the season, I said, I'll potentially reevaluate depending on where we're at. And I had that timeline in my head. She did not know. Fast forward through that summer,
still maintain friends, and we
were friends. We were in life group, like we hung out in group settings. It wasn't and it wasn't awkward. It was just like, here's where we're at. This is clear.
Yeah.
Which I think is beautiful. So anyway, fast forward to our fall retreat that we had that year, which was in September. So March to September. So now you kind of see, we're kind of extended. So anyway, in September was my internal timeline. I was like, okay, I'm going to finish retreat. After I finish retreat, I'm going to reevaluate this. And so we're on the way back down south, back down the mountain. And I kid you not, Sheridan is like, hey,
you want to hang out and have a conversation about
I want
this
to follow.
again?
Yeah, I want to like literally not knowing what my timeline was, and so I was like, sure. I was like, okay, Lord, you knew, and talk about the Lord being faithful.
Yes, seriously.
Yeah. So anyway, we had a conversation kind of in September. Had some more conversations of just like expectations from relationships, kind of boundaries in the dating stage. And so then I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm gonna take you on your first date. Like this is a date. We are classifying this. No more DTRs. No more.
But when was our first date?
Our first date was in November of that year.
Pushed out a little bit longer.
A full like kind of 8-9 months.
Hey,
which
it's okay.
It was
Honestly,
great.
It was a great time to become friends and actually get to know each other.
Yeah,
people are in different settings and friendships.
Yeah, and so funny. Our first date was we like went and had dinner, and then that was the night that Wakanda Forever came out. And so kind of on theme of this MCU thing, which was really fun. But yeah, we went with some of our friends opening night, which was super fun. So anyway, did a series of dates after that point. And then one thing that was really big for me is kind of having moved from South Alabama to Arizona. Like my friends became my family, and so it was just really important for her to click with my friends and for me to click with her friends, because like that is like
our families.
These are my family, and so we had a series of events over New Year's from into 2022 and 2023, where she was with all of her best friends and I was the only one there. Like that was kind of outlier, and the vice versa happened where I was with all of my friends and she was the only one. And so just getting to like reflect on those two events that we had was really fun. And we like are so grateful for that, because the Lord just kind of was like, hey, you can do this. To that point, it was like, okay, I'm ready to put a label on this thing. Also fully knowing that like part of our dating relationship, she knew that I was going to be gone for 2.5 months. And so I spent 2.5 months overseas. And so she willingly was like, okay.
Like, go. Like, I want you to do it.
And so knowing that like part of our dating relationship was going to be long distance, full 12 hours, where you're trying to figure out,
like can I text you? And like all these things.
Yeah. But we joke about it all the time of like how long it took us to get to that point. So many people do, and it was brought up in best man speeches and all these things, but and it's fun to joke about it because it doesn't bother us, but at the same time talk about the faithfulness of God, like him just like leading through those seasons of there was a lot of healing that needed to happen for both of us that like kind of led to that place too, where the Lord is just like so faithful to do that. So
and I think something else to mention about the timeline too, because from my perspective,
from her, she actually has a crazy perspective. This part is crazy.
So I like started consistently going to life group in July of 2021. And so by that time I was like, starting to get to know Stone. I remember, this is like so cringy, I'm totally gonna out myself, this is fine. But I remember like the very first day that I met Stone, I like put a note in my phone about it. I was like, like there's this guy that I met, like he seems really nice. Never in my life have ever done that. Don't know why I did that, but God knew. And so I was like, okay, interesting. It was like in the very beginning of August when Stone transitioned from like college to young adults. So like we, he had all his friends and I was, new and whatever. So anywho, so the more that I got to talk to him, I'm like, okay, I think I actually really like this guy. But like, it's so just like, we're just friends and like, he has no idea. And so by the time that November rolls around, I was like, okay, God, like, I don't want to ever have to go through another terrible relationship again. Like, I want whatever my next relationship is to be the one. Like, I don't want to have to go through heartache and all this pain anymore. And so I remember praying about it, and God said, okay, like, wait 7 months. And I was like, you know what? I've already waited this long. Like, that's nothing to me. Like, I'll wait. That's fine. And so by the time the 7 months rolls around is the time when Stone and I had a conversation. Hey, I think that I'm interested in you. And so I was like, okay, like, we're getting somewhere. God gave me, like, an internal timeline that I never told him about, obviously. And I remember writing it down. I was like, okay, God, like, I trust you. If nothing comes from it, like, that's okay. But yeah, 7 months rolls around, we have a conversation. Hey, I think I like you. And I was like, okay, like, I finally feel like I have clarity. And like, before he leaves, actually was on the way. It was our last like hangout before he, did his mission trip. And I was like, God, I know this is like just the beginning of like a friendship and starting to get to know each other, but like, I would really like love to know if he likes me or not. And so on the way, I prayed that. And then there's, he told me, and I was like, okay, like, I know that you're leaving for a month, but that was so much clarity for me because it gave me time to like actually be able to process everything while he was gone. And so it like through that whole relationship like taught me so much about how to hear the voice of God, to like really pray about everything, because like praying about your relationship is so important. Like in the beginning stages, throughout the whole thing, like prayer is so important, like having God be in the middle. And so yeah, God taught me a lot, and a lot of prayer went into it, and I'm just so thankful. I think like during the dating season, the whole process of getting to that point, like obviously like in the middle of it, I was kind of like, when is this gonna happen? And God's just like, just be patient, give him some time. And I'm like, okay, God, like I'll wait longer. Like this is totally fine. Like I've already waited this long, I can do it more. And so then the time I was like, hey, let's like push out a little bit longer. I was like, okay, God. And so I was praying. I was like, okay, God, like, do you want me to hold on to this? Do you want me to let it go? Like, what do you want me to do with it? And he just kept telling me to be patient. And I was like, okay, like, I can do that. And so, gave Stone time to like process things and gave me time to process things because I also had so much happening at the same time during, liking Stone. And so it gave me time to process things. And so, yeah, looking back, I would say that the waiting was so worth it. And I know that being in it is like so, sometimes it's hard and it's complicated and you're like, I feel like I'm waiting, but like nothing's happening or like I'm not getting clarity. But then at the same time, like God showed up in so many ways and did give me clarity. And even if Stone didn't say anything, God was telling me stuff. And so you got the direct man to talk to if you need advice. And like obviously your friends and stuff too. So yeah, like looking back, I'm just so thankful. Like there were so many things that people were like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, why are you doing that? We didn't kiss until we got married, and people thought that was the weirdest thing. And I remember,
to clarify, that was like my first kiss ever was on my wedding day.
That makes sense.
So
yeah,
and like up to that point, it was like, okay, no, this is a hard boundary that I have, right?
Yeah.
And that was just kind of through prayer, like living my life. And then it's like as we got closer to the wedding day, I was like, oh, this is kind of a fun game. Where it's like, can I actually?
Can we do this?
Can I make it? Like, oh, this is fun. But
and like what's so interesting too is that I remember like before we officially like started dating and like we're like in the dating process, I remember he told me about that boundary. Honestly, at first I was like kind of offended, and I was like, you don't want to kiss me? Like, what do you mean? Like because I've never not done that before in a relationship. So I'm just like, what do you mean you don't want to kiss me? And so in the beginning, like it took a lot of my heart to like just change my perspective on it. And like looking back, wow, am I so thankful. Like, and not to say that kissing and dating is wrong at all. But like knowing our hearts and like knowing that it could be such a place that you can get somewhere that you don't want to go. And so like I'm so thankful that was set up in the very beginning. I didn't have to question it. I didn't have to like get to the point of like, is this okay now? Is this not okay? Because it was already set from the beginning. And so we already established those things, which made like him guarding my heart like so easy. And like I just learned like how God loves me so much. And I'm like, okay, like you like me for me and not for like kissing me or whatever. And so it was just sweet to see like how God like still allowed to have that like even like without kissing you can still like enjoy kind of like I don't know how to describe it. Like
I think you said it, it's like right that season was a lot of like learning each other for each other without so many extra pressures or
like added weights or anything.
Yeah,
like you like me for who I am and my personality.
Yeah,
not anything else.
And that was something that we just felt like the Lord, like when we were defining those, we felt like the Lord was like, hey, no, this is what I have. Tidbit, like everybody should do that at every stage of your relationship, right?
Yeah.
Because as you grow in that relationship, and when it was for us, it's like, okay, well, now we're engaged, so like what boundary gets to move, right? And I think that is healthy and right and so good. And so it was really just, okay, God, we want to hear your voice. We want you to be involved in this. We want you to be our foundation. And so if our relationship is built on you, then you're going to honor that and be healthy. And we're going to learn things and it's going to be so good. And so, to the point where he's just like so faithful in all of those little details that like may seem so big in the moment. But I think having been through that and having been married for a year, we have like felt the relief. And there is just this, like, I think as his children, he is, like, when you honor the things and you say yes to obeying him, like, he's such a proud dad. I'll never forget, like, on my wedding day, I had one of my groomsmen who had been married for a while and was just, like, expressing that, like, love of, like, Stone, you've run the race, like, at this point, like, and you've run it so well. And so, like, you're going to get to cross the finish line and get to experience the beauty of marriage and all that it is just because you said yes to, like, the sacrificing and yes to the boundaries. And I think even that process, it's in Psalm 16, it's like the boundary lines fall in good and pleasant places. And it's like the Lord doesn't give us boundaries for, like, to constrict us. It's actually just, like, they're pleasant because he wants us to enjoy what we have.
Yeah.
And in that way. And so I think that place too, it's just like, you encounter God in another way where it's like, God, you as a father, like, know what's best for me. And as long as I say yes to obey you, you're going to honor. And obeying him is going to lead to a fruitful life in so many ways. So,
to give you guys a little, like, not hope because you guys are married, but I rejected my husband 3 times. Don't feel bad at all. Because I didn't know the Lord until senior year of college. So that, and I had gone through a relationship before that he didn't know the Lord, and I was like, God, I am not doing that again.
Yeah.
Like, not. And I was like, I can't do it. I'm not doing this anymore. And it was January of 2022 when Ike started to come to life group, and we were like, baby. I was like, okay. And then March of 2022, I'm not proud of lying to my parents, but I basically told them that it was a group trip to Nashville when it was just Ike and I going to Nashville to see if that's where he wanted to move or not for spring break. So the entire time Elise and Victoria are texting me, they're like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? I was like, I'm great. This is great. Like, okay. And my parents were like, no, we kind of knew. And we literally told each other that this is either going to end them being together or really, really, really bad. And I was like, okay, I'm really shocked that you guys even found this out. And they're like, you're kidding me, right? Like, you're our daughter. Like, we're going to figure
Yeah,
it out.
we know you.
I know this.
Yeah.
And then it was during quiet time at Antioch. And I was looking for Elise because I knew he was going to ask me out. I knew it. I had this like in the back of my head. I was like, okay, if I find Elise, I can like talk to her and I can ignore the thing that's going on in the background. I don't have to like deal with it just yet. And Elise went to the bathroom. The one time Elise went to the bathroom during quiet time. And he like pulls me aside and asked me out, and I said yes. And I was like, God, you are really funny. Really.
His
Because Elise
humor
never
is
misses quiet time. Elise is always up front. Elise is always in her seat. And of course, the one time Elise goes to the bathroom.
so funny.
So,
God knew.
yeah. And then, of course, a lot of other things. But it was just so funny. I was just like, really? That really?
One moment.
For one moment?
Yeah.
And Lisette was discipling me at that time. And she goes, why do you keep talking about this guy? Like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Hello.
Literally, like, your note, you're like, I don't know why I wrote this, but like, why do you keep talking about him? And I was like, I don't know. And then she told me on Elisa's wedding day, because she was doing my hair, she goes, I normally would have been really, really scared for anyone else to get married to like either a newer believer or something else, or even start dating them. She goes, but for some reason, I didn't. Like, I didn't have any worry. I didn't have any fear. And I was like, well, that's good that you tell me that now. I was like, 3 years ago, this would all been nice to have known.
Yeah.
You had fear and you had doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks to though, like when you're in situations like that, or even non-marriage or relationship situations, where I think about like our trip to Europe this past year, where it's like we find ourselves in a situation, and it's like there's the Lord that gives you so much supernatural peace that like I should not be doing this. Like in any logical realm, I should not be doing this. But like kind of as we said, like the Lord is so faithful and he leads in these very mysterious ways that we could never understand. And when you follow the peace of God, he just is like, hey, just watch me and let's go here and do this and follow this journey. And so, yeah, it's the peace of God is when he like in those moments where it's like, this doesn't make logical sense, but there's so much supernatural peace that like passes all that understanding. Yeah, that's just kind of what it brings to mind in that way, and it's so fun because you're looking back and it's like that doesn't make sense. I don't know why I did it.
That was
but
crazy.
The Lord the Lord wrote this like fun story for me to be a part of, and He loves me as His child.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. I loved this conversation. Thank you guys for so much wisdom and just. I love hearing your guys' story. I really have never got able to sit down and hear it. So thank you guys so much for just sharing it.
Yeah, anytime. I feel like there's always so much more. So
Oh, yeah.
hopefully, once we're in the nations at some point, another one can come in a different
Yeah,
season.
catch
But
up in a couple years.
yeah, so
Couple years, the Neils, wherever they will be.
Yeah,
hanging
like a
out.
little joint call.
yeah, we'll just have a
Yes!
conversation.
That'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, no, it's great. So thank you, Ashley. We appreciate it.
And thank
you're
you for having
welcome.
us on.
Of course. Well, thank you guys for listening, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye!
Thanks.